You know, every year there are hundreds of games that get released, and with that, of course, there are many games that don't get talked about, or get swept under the bus in favor of the larger, more advertised releases. I mean, me personally, I love watching a 2-hour long video essay discussing the sorry state that Cyberpunk 2077 released in, but at the same time, I'd also love watching a 2-hour long video essay about the very intricately woven story about loss, grief, and how people deal with depression presented in the 2019 release of Inmost. So I thought I would take the time to talk about some games that I found particularly enjoyable, that might not have many videos on them or people talking about them overall. I also wanted to say that the Lightning Returns video is coming, but I had to pick up a new job, so everything will be slower overall, and with 2023 being stacked with game releases in the first half that I'd like to make videos and reviews on, it might take me quite some time to get that video out, so I hope y'all will bear with me. Now with that being said, let's talk about some games, shall we? 2016 wasn't that great of a year for game releases overall, at least when you compare it to the years directly sandwiching it. There was only a handful of really groundbreaking or outstanding games to be released that year, and a lot of the hyped up games didn't really live up to the standards that fans were expecting. I don't know about all that though, because I spent my entire 2016 year playing World of Warcraft Legion and watching a bald man's friend scream in the funniest way possible over the fact he didn't get a giant owl mount.
What? Sappy on Ragnaros? Who the fuck is that? No! He fucking learned it! No! You fucking idiot! You fucking stupid idiot!
Now, while the bigger releases didn't really stick the landing, there were a lot of really great indie games and/or games that a lot of people at the time didn't give too much thought to. Firewatch, Stellaris, Oxenfree, The Witness, Odin Sphere, all very good games in their own rights, and nowadays, some of them are even pretty popular and get talked about quite often when people bring up great games. Firewatch and The Witness in particular. There was one game in specific though that released this year that, whilst not perfect, I think many people still overlooked, and that was Valley by Blue Isle Studios, the same developers behind Slender: The Arrival. I'm not exactly sure how to describe Valley. It's kinda like a linear movement-based platforming / puzzle solving type game, with a few FPS elements thrown in here and there for good measure. And I don't want to spoil too much in case you find yourself wanting to play any of the games listed, but the general story idea is you're looking for a life seed, and after being stranded in a valley, you find a secret government project, the Leaf Suit. With the Leaf Suit, you gain superhuman abilities, such as running at extreme speeds, double jumping, and grappling around, as well as all the basic movement-based powers that you could hope for. Not only that, but you gain the ability to suck life out of every living creature, just as you can bestow life upon dead creatures. If you're a fan of movement-based or exploration games, you'll probably get a dopamine hit out of this one. It's short, but it's a really solid choice. And maybe you're a fan of movement shooters, but the exploration and naturey vibes of Valley just aren't your cup of tea. Well, fret not, I've got just the item for you. Severed Steel, developed by Greylock Studios. Now, I read a Steam review that described Severed Steel as being super hot in Mirror Edge, having an illegitimate baby that grew up watching old John Woo movies. And I think that is the best descriptor anyone could have given for this game. You will be running on walls, diving through the air, doing the most badass kickflips through a window, whilst blasting enemy soldiers with a sniper rifle and watching as they explode into a million little pieces. It is so fucking satisfying. And at first, I wasn't really sold on the game. I played it for roughly 20 minutes and it really wasn't clicking with me at all. But after I started slowing down time and gained a fucking arm cannon, oh dude, the game just opened up so many possibilities for how to approach the levels. Severed Steel is just one of those games that is begging for someone to speedrun it. The best comparison I have for it is Neon White, with how you can plan out your approach for each level to maximize your efficiency. It is just an adrenaline rush playing this game. It's not perfect, there were times where things would just happen that I had no idea what the hell was going on, but it's really not that noticeable when things like that do happen, because you're just having so much fun. I seriously recommend this one, and if you had to play only one of these games from the list, I'd say that this is the one I had the most fun with. Plus, the soundtrack is really phenomenal. It is a crime that it isn't more well known, and I'm not the only one who thinks that, evidently, because the first search result when typing in Severed Steel on YouTube is actually Severed Steel OST. And I don't know if I will, but Past Jay is writing this right now and recording this audio in the hopes that future Jay will listen to it, but I'll probably be using the soundtrack as the background music for most of this video. That is in fact what I am doing. I did in fact listen. Rule number 1 is a first-person arena shooter, and that's really all there is to it. You have a few different game modes to choose from, but the idea for each of them is the same. Except for the basketball mode, but we'll not talk about that. You spawn in and murder a bunch of geometry-based enemies. And of course, there are other mobs as well, but the geometry boys are your basic main adversaries. You get a wide array of weapons to tear through waves upon waves of monsters, and that's pretty much all. It's your very bare-bones arena wave survival game. It's fun, easy to hop into for a short bit of time, maybe get a little aim training in, or just pass the time while in queue for another game. Although the shape of the arena can be a pain in the ass at times. A rectangle just seems like an odd choice for this kind of game over a square or circular arena. On the bright side though, should you survive and get a high enough score, you'll unlock some, well, let's just say your reward for being good at the game is some classy artwork. In all seriousness though, y'all should really go show the artist Blacktar some love. I've been a fan of their work since I got this game back in September of 2021, and they are criminally underrated. I'll leave a link to their Twitter down below if y'all want to go check them out. Their Lovey's Notes series is absolutely adorable. Quickly moving on from that though, let's talk about a game that I wanted to make a video on, but also didn't think that I'd have enough to say about it to fill an entire dedicated video about. Xanadu Next. This game is old. It was released initially in 2005, and it shows. The graphics aren't great, and it controls pretty weirdly at times. However, it is ripe with some very interesting game mechanics that haven't really been implemented in many, if any, games since. Which just goes to serve in its favor. It makes it feel all the more distinct. The story is basic. You are a soldier who used to be a part of an elite knightly group, but you've lost your way and are unsure of what to do. You are asked to set off with this little researcher girl to uncover the mysteries of a secret castle hiding in the mist of a local island. Simple plot that really leaves some to be desired. But the mystery of the castle and the supposedly mystical, all-powerful sword that you'll acquire should you figure out how to get there are enough motivators to get the ball rolling. Xanadu Next has the makings of what could be an actual economy-based RPG, with items having supply and demand. The idea is you progress through dungeons and each room requires a key to open it. So you kill some monsters, farm some money, and some bones, so that you can bring back to the shop. The more bones that you sell to the shopkeeper, the cheaper that the keys are, but buying the keys in bulk will increase the price. Great and interesting ideas like this are spread all throughout the game. And if you're looking for a nice, old school feeling RPG that'll run you a few hours of playtime, go ahead and give this game a look. I know I don't regret it, and I can't imagine that you will either. But if you do wind up regretting it, you can't hold me liable. I'm starting to run out of games to recommend here, so let's top the list off with one that isn't necessarily unpopular or really that unknown, but I still haven't seen many people talk about or make videos on. Curse of the Dead Gods. I describe this game as a dungeon diver roguelike. You choose which dungeon you'd like to run down, you get as far as you can, be at the end or dying at the very start if you're like me and you suck, and you use the rewards you get from that run to unlock new upgrades, weapons, items, etc. You can then use those new stronger items to take on the harder dungeons. It's fairly standard as far as roguelike genre goes. The standout mechanic of the game is the curse system. Basically, the curse is an overtime buildup that can be accrued from all manner of different ways, be it sacrificing blood for a weapon or just opening a door to head to the next room. Whenever you have enough curse built up, you will get a random debuff. This can be an assortment of different things, from opening chests now needing to be parried, or the absolutely insane ability for the map to mirror itself at random. It adds a nice risk-reward system, since you often have the choice on whether or not to accrue curse. Do you spend your hard-earned cash for an item, or do you sacrifice some blood and gain 40 curse? If you want a very straightforward, easy to understand, turn your brain off for a few hours and just have some fun type of game, Curse of the Dead Gods might be that for you. That's all I have though for game recommendations that maybe don't get covered as much as the larger releases or indie games that kinda get a cult following. As mentioned before, I don't know when the Lightning Returns video will be finished and uploaded. As much as I'd love to just spend all day every day making videos and pumping out content for you guys, I gotta pay my bills. But I will try to get it up sometime before the halfway point of the year, and I don't really plug it much since I don't stream much as of right now, but if you'd like to go follow me on Twitch, I plan to be streaming the games I'll be making videos on in the coming months. This includes Lightning Returns, Wild Hearts, Atomic Heart, and Wo Long. Anyways, good night.